Hey guys, it's Ohmwrecker, and today I'm going to be sharing my impressions of a game called Dishonored with you guys. Dishonored's a first-person stealth/action RPG style game developed by Arkane Studios, and it's published by Bethesda Softworks. I do want to make a note though really quick that Harvey Smith of Deus Ex fame was actually a big part of the development of this game, so it's generated some buzz for it already. Considering that it's a new IP, that always goes a long way, but I know that there's a lot of fans out there that are excited to play a game by him again. And yeah, I mean, it's literally coming out tomorrow, October 9th, 2012 in the US and Canada. And it's releasing for the rest of the world on October 12th of 2012. So let's get into the game. First we're going to talk about the story. Dishonored is actually centered around a character named Corvo Attano. That's who you play as. And at the start you learn that he's actually the bodyguard of the region's empress. So you're coming back from a mission that she sent you on where you're trying to kind of figure out like what's going on with a plague that's been affecting the lands and is there a potential cure for it. Well, as you're there reporting back to her, she ends up getting assassinated literally like right at that moment by these characters that are able to like bend time. They're able to warp and get to her, and it's almost like time freezes. So of course after she's laying there dead, you get blamed for her death, and next thing you know you're being carted off. Well, to add insult to injury, as you're being led off to, you know, be served with justice, you find out that the Empress's daughter also got kidnapped, and I mean you're blamed for that as well, which honestly doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It's like you had two people around you at the time as this was happening, and then you know, all of a sudden, like, the Empress is dead, and then on top of that, the girl's gone, but you stayed there the whole time. But anyway, yeah, it'll make a little bit more sense to you later, but I thought it was kind of funny at the start. So, yeah, she's gone. You're being let off, you know, to essentially face execution. And very quickly you find out that there's actually some people who are trying to help you as you're in jail. They believe in your innocence, and they think that you can play a role in the stabilization of the environment, or of the lands there, and at the same time you could figure out what's going on with the plague as well, which was your original mission. But first, I mean, now you're a fugitive and you're trying to escape jail, and eventually you get out, and then everyone's looking for you. They all hate you. You used to be like a, you know, a respected figure, and now you're like the most wanted man in the lands, especially after you escape. For killing the Empress and kidnapping her daughter. So I don't want to go too much more though into the story, because it's something that you guys want to experience for yourselves, especially because this is a good game. I can tell you right now, I'm going to end up recommending that you guys check it out. But let's talk a little bit more about it first. So gameplay wise, it's kind of like a funky mix of Thief, Hitman, and Bioshock. And I even feel like there's a little bit of influence of Brink as well. I know that's a game that you guys probably don't want to hear, and no worries. I'm only speaking of the actual movement aspect of how you transition, you know, from place to place, running and climbing over objects or sliding under things, or even in the combat. It's a very, very smooth experience. It's actually one of my favorite parts of the game, is, you know, just kind of how you navigate the world. And I also know that I threw in like an RPG label at the start, but I want to let you guys know that I did that loosely. Dishonored is very much not a full-on RPG. It does not offer, you know, the ability to customize things like stats or your classes. You can't pick a different race. You can't be like an ogre or an elf or whatever else. Nor can you customize the look of your character or even the gender. You are stuck as Corvo. But there is still customization. You can find runes throughout the game which allow you to upgrade either your powers or your enchantments. Powers are things like being able to summon rats to attack your enemies, or being able to possess enemies. You can also use them for more neutral type skills that aren't actually going to hurt anybody, like being able to warp around or being able to see like the enemy vision. You can even see enemies through walls with one of the powers. So there's a number of different things that you can invest in with the runes. And the enchantments also enhance your character as well in other ways, such as being able to increase your survivability by increasing your health or your health regen. There's another one that lets you run faster and take less damage from falls. So really, there's a lot of ways to customize your character to fit your playstyle just with that system there. Beyond that, though, there's also something called bone charms. And those charms are used to also further enhance your character, where you can wear them and they give you sort of like mini buffs. So one might say that if you get attacked by weepers, then you'll potentially gain some mana back. And another one might say that enemies have a slight chance of missing you when they try to fire a gun at you. So you can add those things to your character as well, which a lot of them also go further in enhancing your specific playstyle. Finally, there's also customization when it comes to weapons. So if you're playing a stealthy character, for example, you might want to invest in a sleeping bolt upgrade for your crossbow, and also silent boots so you can actually run without generating sound. Whereas if you're playing a character that's going all out combat, you can invest in sword upgrades or gun upgrades, all of which will help you be more effective when you're fighting these other enemies in combat. I personally went the dark side with going all out with combat, and this was after I had learned that Total Biscuit was going to be covering the stealth side. He's got a video up on his channel right now, I'm sure, that you guys can go check out. I'll even link it in the description so you can see kind of a different style of play. But that also, with a family emergency that came up, it totally changed up my plans and the time I had available. So I knew that I would have to spend more time going the stealthy route. So plus, beyond that, I wanted to see how much time it would take to beat the game if you're kind of going like a run and gun style. Not to say that I was ignoring quests or anything. I think I hit up most of them and I completed them, but I definitely did want to see, you know, what would the time difference be between those types of playthroughs. So one interesting thing is that the game world, it molds around how you're playing, and I did see that. I saw that not only were there more creepers and more rats and even more guards to face off against in each of my missions, but the characters that were on more friendly terms with me, they started to change a bit in the way that they talked to me. There were some people that were talking about like all the, you know, bodies I was leaving behind, and almost talking like I was going the wrong way, or going down the wrong path essentially. So it was interesting to see how that worked out. Plus, I also did definitely get an ending that I guess you could say was a bad ending, but at the same time it was still, you know, decent. It wasn't like an ending where I was extremely disappointed and I just like absolutely had to go replay right now because I totally screwed everything up. It was acceptable for what it was. So overall, the story was quite good. I did enjoy it, although not everything made total sense at the end. Even with all the books and notes and journals and stuff that are scattered about the game world, I mean, you can go through those things and, you know, get little snippets of information about some of the backstories. But for example, I didn't fully understand this outsider character, which has been shown in the trailers and stuff. I didn't know entirely why he was so fixated on interacting with these like mere mortals. He seems like he's some sort of like supernatural character. And again, this isn't necessarily spoiler. Bethesda's shown this guy, but even by the end, when the credits rolled, I still didn't know exactly what his purpose was or what he was really up to. Perhaps this is something that'll be answered in the sequel or DLC or whatever else. I'm not sure, but I personally wasn't entirely clear on it. Plus, there are some situations where I didn't fully understand the relationships between the characters, or, you know, exactly what their purpose was in the grand scheme of things. There's, for example, one character called Granny Sags. I could tell from the start she was a little bit loopy, and she still stuck around, though. She was kind of like a persistent character, and I wasn't really quite sure what her deal was, you know, what her role was or why she was there the entire time. Again, this might be answered in DLC or whatever else, but I would have liked to have known her backstory a little bit more. Also, some of the targets, you know, I had mentioned that there's a little bit of like a Hitman feel where you have to go and address a number of different targets, whether you kill them or you let them live. You do still have a target list you have to go through, and there were a couple instances where I didn't fully understand why the character was entirely crucial to progression, but it's, you know, just kind of like nitpicking a little bit. I mean, it's not all that big of a deal. It didn't really ruin the experience. And it's entirely possible I might have missed something, or I might have missed a conversation. There is eavesdropping in this game where you can learn things from players if you just kind of stick around and listen to them. So it's entirely possible I missed some of that backstory that way too. In terms of the visuals and the audio experience stuff, obviously you guys are seeing the game right now. This is on PC, and it does look, you know, pretty good. I'd say that it's about on par with Bioshock 2. I mean, I wouldn't say that it's the best looking PC game ever, but it's also not by any means the worst. I mean, they have done really good work with the textures, and the engine itself is butter smooth. I mean, I had no problems with the lag whatsoever. Very, very responsive. I mean, you could tell that this was optimized for a PC. There's no problems at all with the mouse and keyboard. The only thing I did have a little bit of a hard time getting used to, though, at the start was the fact that your left mouse button is meant to control your right hand. That's your actual sword swipe. And your right mouse button controls everything in your left hand. So whether you're like laying down a trap, or you're using a power or whatever else, or even a gun, that's all controlled with your right mouse button. Even though on the screen it's an item in your left hand. I thought that was a little bit weird. And it's probably possible to rebind that. I didn't look, but I did get used to it. It wasn't that big of a deal. The sound effects are all really good. I enjoyed those a lot. The music was okay. I honestly didn't find it entirely memorable, but it was fine. I didn't find any of it annoying or repetitive or anything like that. And overall, I mean, I thought it was a really well done game, you know, just beyond the story and the gameplay and whatnot. Also on the graphics and sound effects side, they did a good job with it. So I think it's on track definitely to get a, you know, good average. Once Metacritic gets to it and rounds everything up, I think it's going to do quite well. And it fills a good gap this year. I mean, we don't have, you know, a Deus Ex Human Revolution coming out. There's no new Bioshock, and we've had this gap scheduled here. And honestly, Dishonored fills it. It's a game that I think anybody that likes those types of games will enjoy. It's also, you know, got some of that RPG side. It's got the FPS experience too, where it's different than, like, say, Call of Duty or whatever else. And it's a fun game. So I do want to tell you guys, though, that as mentioned, I went through it in all-out action mode. I was able to beat the game in 9 hours. And I would say that I got probably 3/4 of the side quest done. And I'd say about the same number of the runes and charms were found. And I had unlocked about half the powers, although the developers have said that they don't expect any player to be able to unlock all the powers the first playthrough. Also, I had about 3/4 of the weapon and gear upgrades, and I found a very large chunk of the charms, the bone charms. So stealth and non-lethal players will get many more hours out of it if you go that route, I'm sure. I mean, if I had sat there and tried to think about, like, different ways to take out the enemies or avoid them, or even to get to the targets without being noticed, I'm sure it would have been many, many more hours of gameplay. But again, I went the hardcore action route. So overall, it's a good game. As mentioned, I definitely would recommend checking it out. Again, this has been Dishonored by Arkane Studios and published by Bethesda Softworks. Comes out tomorrow, October 9th, 2012 for North America, and for the rest of the world on October 12th, 2012. I'll leave a link to the Steam page on or in the description. And that's it for this video, guys. So as always, please be sure to like, favorite, comment, and subscribe. Tell your friends about my channel. I always appreciate when you guys do that. And please share my videos with them. There's more videos to come, so stay tuned. I'll see you guys next time.